This is Rabbi Aaron Box from Temple Beth Shalom in Ocala, Florida. Back again with my podcast this week. We're going to talk about a topic that I didn't think I would need to talk about, but it's necessary. Unfortunately, it's a little terrifying and pretty scary, but a necessary topic nonetheless. So I was playing a round of golf yesterday with a friend, and because we were a twosome, we were paired with another twosome, so we could have four people in our group, and we were just playing and talking and getting along with each other. And at one point, one of the guys told a religious joke, and it wasn't inappropriate. It was kind of funny. It was harmless. Um, but I kind of made the comment, you're talking to a rabbi. I love those kinds of jokes. And the other two gentlemen were, oh, you're a rabbi. Oh, where's your congregation? And we're from up north, and asking normal questions. And we got in the golf cart to go to find our balls for the next shot. And the person I was with said, "Wow, I'm surprised that you mentioned that you're a rabbi." And I said, "Well, I don't hide it." He said, "No, I'm not ashamed that you're my rabbi. Obviously, I'm happy that you're my rabbi. I'm just, surprised that you mentioned it." And it didn't dawn on me whatsoever that he may have been a little bit nervous in today's world to admit to total strangers that they're Jewish, or and I don't know that he was, but it made me think. And came into the office today and was looking at the news like I often do, and I found an article on the Times of Israel, and the title is "We're living in the most worrying period for Jews since World War II," and it continues. And there's rarely been a time when Israel's existence, imperiled from without and hobbled from within, has been so manifestly necessary. And it's a long article, but it brings up some really good points. How in America and in other Western countries, where we have sort of, as Jewish people, been living in this living in a world in which we felt like, okay, there's some anti-Semitism out there, there's some anti-Jewish stuff out there, but we live in a really good place, and sort of the cloud, if you will, clouds been pulled over our eyes to make us believe that we live in a utopian world, and what this kind of things, anti-Semitic acts, could never happen to us because we're in a safe place. We're in the United States, or we're in other parts of the world, and since October 7th, the war that began in Israel, which I will remind anyone who listens to my podcast, was started because the military arm of a terrorist organization, um, funded by a militarily terrorist country, um, went in and kidnapped hundreds of people, killing 1,200 Jews, Israelis, uh, with no reason and with no and with no other understood reason except because they did not want them to be living, did not want them to be alive. Um, and these people, of course, were at a music festival, minding their own business, and no doubt the Hamas terrorists would have killed many, many more had they had the opportunity to. And so, this article talks about the spiking anti-Semitism in the world. Um, these these vast demonstrations in not just in the Arab world but also in the West, uh, in which people are being urged to not only support the Palestinians in Gaza, which I 100% support, the innocent civilians that live in Gaza, the Palestinians live in Gaza. I want them to have peace. But they're also being urged to deny the Jewish state its right to exist. Physical attacks are happening in Western countries. Jewish kids in the United States are now choosing universities based on how courageous they might feel identifying as being Jewish or Zionist for that matter. And as someone who has a child that's going to college next year, I know that part of that has entered her mind. That idea of wanting to have a Jewish roommate because you don't know what's out there. A Jewish actress in London's West End, told it's not safe for her to leave her theater because of dangerous protests outside, and this is in London. So there's lots of this going on in the world, and for the first time, perhaps ever, there's this real serious fear. I pulled up an article that says the ADL records, show that more than 3,200 anti-Semitic incidents have occurred in the United States since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. 3,200 anti-Semitic incidents in 4 months. Or 5 months. It's a terrible position to find yourself in, that I find myself in sometimes. And I read of colleagues of mine who don't wear their yarmulke out in public anymore, or if they wear a Star of David, they put it in their shirt so it's not outwardly seen. And I wonder why. And I think there's lots of misinformation out there. There's lots of misguided people out there. There's lots of wrong ideas and wrong information that is taking people in the wrong direction. I am pro-Israeli. I am Zionist 100%. But I also want the Palestinian people to have peace. I also want the Palestinian people to be able to raise their children peacefully in their own land, in their own state. I think that that's the most important thing. Don't know, though, that there are people out there. So let me take that back. I know that there are people out there who don't want the same for the Israelis, who don't want the same for the other side. And that's terrifying, and that's scary. Got into an argument recently with a non-Jewish colleague about something regarding this, and the language that he used towards me and towards my people being other Jews around the world, in Israel and outside of Israel. It's so unnecessary and so wrong and scary at the same time. Look, I was in Israel a year ago. I marched in protest against the government in Israel for quote unquote judicial reforms that they were trying to make that would have turned Israel upside down. I 100% am not in support of the current government of Israel. Bibi Netanyahu is dangerous for the country of Israel and for the others surrounding Israel and for all of us worldwide. But I can say that. I can I can argue against the nation of Israel, against the government of Israel, and still support my brothers and sisters that live in Israel. I can argue against Hamas and say Hamas is terrorists, filled with terrorists, but I can also support the Palestinian people. I hope and pray that God will get involved in somehow, in some way. Because we need more love in the world and less hate. We need to feel less afraid to be who we are. More comfortable being different and embracing the differences that we find in others. Remember, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And the rest is commentary.